Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello, my comic book friends, and welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. I am Gary, your host. This is where I like to take a look at some older comics, read just that, some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and examine the stories and the art. And this time, I want to look at this book here, which you can see up there on the cover. It's talking about the Marvel 25th anniversary, which tells you how long ago this was, because, well, this Marvel is now 60 years old. And the title we're going to look at here is Dakota North Investigations #2. Marvel Comics from 1986. This was a short-lived series, and one that I really enjoyed at the time. I think I had all 5 issues of this run, and I may still have a couple of others, but when I come across this one not too long ago, I like that one. I got to do that. So this is issue #2. And one of the interesting things is that, of course, Marvel is known, especially in this day and age, for primarily, almost exclusively, their superhero titles. And of course, now with being owned by Disney, and then Disney having bought Fox, and the Star Wars stuff, which was also Fox, but Fox didn't own them. It's got all the Star Wars stuff and stuff from Fox, like Predator and Alien. But still, the main Marvel emphasis is on the superheroes. The Marvel superheroes. And that's why this was a nice diversion at a time when I think what they published was almost exclusively superheroes, with some exceptions in their Star line about this time. But Dakota North was a crime action adventure with title with a strong emphasis on fashion thrown in. So it's and has fashion models, and I think Dakota had previously been a fashion model. I can't remember. Okay, and Dakota North is a fictional comic book character from 86 and 87, with a total of 5 issues from Marvel Comics, appearing in her own series in 1986, created by Martha Tomasis and Tony Salmons, and she later became a recurring character in other series, such as Cage, Daredevil, and Captain Marvel, and is part of the Marvel shared universe. Because even though superheroes don't show up in this series at all, she is still in that same universe. And I don't remember, it's been a long time since I've read the whole series. They may have had occasional references to other Marvel events. And when I say have the name here, Dakota North, and it always makes me think of Fargo North, Decoder from the Electric Company, way back when. And even Dakota North is kind of it's the name is derived from the same place, not one from the other, but of course North Dakota. It's a little difference to something familiar. So that the very name, the first time you hear it, is sounds familiar. And I think this would have been this series would have made a very nice and interesting TV series, or even a series of action movies. And because it is well written, it seems well conceived, and I really like the art. Okay, let's see. I said it was created by Martha Tomasis, however you pronounce it, who was born a New York City based author, born in 1953. She created Dakota North for Marvel, worked as a freelance journalist for the Village Voice, New York Daily News, National Lampoon, among others. And she worked on promoting the death of Superman back in the 90s. And she is the author of Secondhand Rose graphic novel. And I'm sure there's a bunch of others that I haven't seen or heard of. She has worked in publicity. That was when she was there at DC for the promotion of the death of Superman, and is currently the vice president of corporate communications at Comic Mix. I have no idea what Comic Mix is. I've never heard of it before. And of course, the art. This is some really great artwork here by Tony Salmons. He was born in 1957. Is an American comic book artist, also a film storyboard artist and character designer. And he has worked on Batman, the animated series, and Aeon Flux, the animated show, not the movie, as and as well as co-creator of Dakota North in comics. And he worked on Batman, Captain America, 2080, Doctor Strange, G.I. Joe, among others, in comics. And I know I have undoubtedly seen his work elsewhere. But this is what sticks in my mind. This is his work that I really, really like, really enjoy. And it is action-packed. And has a really, really smart female lead character. And very capable in a time when that was still relatively unusual in mass media across the board, not just in comics. And what I mean is it was unusual for such a capable female character without superpowers in comics. It's thrilling. She's constantly surprising the male members of the cast, and especially the bad guys, and has a bit of romance thrown in, and a strong emphasis on the fashion industry. And it is a fun read. I can't remember what went on in issue number 1 because it's been so long since I've read it. And from what I gather, this run has been compiled into a reprint trade paperback. But I haven't seen that. So let's take a little closer look at Dakota North Investigations. There it is. This is a quite eye-catching cover illustration. This hot rod going through hell. And it starts off. This episode, this title is called Petrix. Petrix? I don't know. And over here along the side, see our cast of main characters in the investigations department. And while there is no splash panel here, we see get sucked in is rather calm but tense. Opening, we see Dakota and her brother, what's his name, Ricky, her younger brother Ricky, as they're walking up some stairs, and there's some menace here. But I want to make a good note here on the artwork. These two panels here, the how nicely done these are, and unless you've tried it before, it looks so naturalistic. That frog doesn't want to leave my throat. Is because this is a very difficult image to pull off and look realistic with that extreme forced perspective from this, going up the stairs from this angle. You see it occasionally in film and TV, but it's very, very difficult for it to draw it and look good. And this looks good. And you can see Dakota is very much a fashion plate here. And she's coming for a meeting with her father. And suddenly, boom, here's the splash page. That crossbow bolt strikes nearby her. She draws her gun. Who knows where she had that? And must have been in her little tiny bag. And we see the person, and she was not really a target. There's a note on it saying, warning her off from an investigation. She says, well, we just finished. Well, it turns out it's the one she's about to be engaged in. Meets her father and a friend of his who is her new client, Mr. Cooper or something. He was the author of a best-selling book. People trying to get at him. Turns out he's got something. This is where it goes from, and it's just a simple bodyguard job. And she doesn't want to take it, and this guy intrudes, wants her to dance. They talk a little bit, and she deduces that he is probably the guy who sent that crossbow bolt, and he is. And also turns out she doesn't want to take this job, but the guy, Cooper, the potential client here, it's not for his book. He knows he's being followed, he's being chased or pursued for some information, something, the MacGuffin. And it happens, and he surreptitiously passes it on to Ricky, because they're playing, they got a little time, and they play a couple hands of poker. And he lets the kid win, who's pretty good at it anyway. And here we have to take a little side trip into the fashion world with this designer and his assistant. It turns out his assistant is not what she seems. So she kind of gets roped into this anyway. Just right outside the restaurant, they're attacked. Someone tries to snatch the old man, and she fights him off because they thought she was going to be a pushover. Well, she's not so easily pushed over. Then the next day, she's escorting him to some interview appearances, and the car that they're about to take is blown up. So they wind up having to take the subway. Surprising here that there's nothing about police involvement. The police are going to be right there trying to figure out what's going on. They're going to be questioned, but they're taken off. And it turns out Ricky, who's got the pin with the thing, and it's a gold pin, as collateral for his winnings in the poker game, and he is being followed and say, yeah, he's got the MacGuffin. Goes back, talks to the clothing designer's assistant, who seems to be the boss big bad, and wants to coerce the teenage boy by sending a lovely teenage model. That's Daisy, and I remember she pops up and is later in the series. Well, in the storyline, because it is a continuing storyline. And other stuff going on, being pursued, someone after, and it's the guy from the restaurant who danced with her, and basically threatens her, but he kisses her. He's so hot for her, and doesn't really want to hurt her. So there's just so much stuff, so many plot threads going on here, and we never get them resolved in this issue. That's for later. And Ricky was roped into escorting this lovely young lady to the airport because she's flying to Paris. And here we see the whole thing. Just doing very, very lovely artwork. It's amazing that his well, I'll talk more about that when I come after this. Here we see stuff in the office, investigations office, and then we see Ricky was roped into escorting her on the Concorde flying to Paris. And here they're being pursued. Dakota and Mr. Cooper are being pursued while they're in another car going someplace else, and this monster truck starts crushing all these vehicles. And look at these huge tires. It's like, I'm not sure that'd be allowed on the street, but they're being pursued. She's getting away, distracts them, and the guy crashes, and the bad guy takes off. Here we finally get some police involvement in it. And the driver of that vehicle is in the hospital, all wrapped up like a mummy. Dialogue. Then we see Ricky in Paris with Daisy. And it's continued next issue. Ah, no! And then a house ad for Dakota North. Style. Yeah, I said a lot of fashion. Now, the artwork, I really like the artwork. It's very precise, very well designed, and the visual storytelling is great. Now Tony does his penciled and inked it. Now his work seems very precise, but the inking is very loose, so leaving out a lot of the details. I mean, this is very difficult to do without tightening up on stuff. Like the background here is just very lightly but precisely indicated, instead of going to the extreme details. The details are indicated, but well indicated, with all the proper perspective, and just enough detail to indicate what needs to be indicated, so that it looks realistic. And I said, the inking style is very loose and very, very lovely. So it gives it like a constant action. Like there's constant action, and he's able to get the expressions, the looks and expressions in the faces so well with so few lines. That is also very difficult. And even the hair, it looks nice, but it's with minimal detail, which is very hard to do. And overall, it was a really, really nice, fun series. I really enjoyed it. I just love the artwork in this. It is very well written, and as I recall, and you just get sucked into it. And there's so much going on in this issue compared to some others, when what's in this would be spread out over like 3 issues with very little actually happening 3 issue. It just sucks you in. At least does me. It sucks me into the story. And I want to see more. So that's what I've got this time for Dakota North Investigations. Thank you for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe. Tell me what you think of Dakota and the more realistic aspects to Marvel Comics. And all that jazz. And remember, even when it's styling, comics are art.